Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother, asarimhotep, with the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. And we have with us some very special guests, Brother Baoku and Sister Evelyn Duduyemi of the Kibolebole, if I'm saying that correctly, Educational Institute. And we're going to talk about a variety of things. We're going to deal with a little bit of agriculture, a little bit of science, a little bit of community building, a little bit of history, and even family if we have the time. And so all that and more when we return in just a moment. And we are back. And just a few announcements. As you know, it is Black Science Month. And so, all throughout the month, we do this all throughout the year, regardless. But all throughout the month, we're going to highlight some African people who are doing big things in STEM, in theory and in practice, in various different fields and the like. And so be on the lookout, for these interviews and sources, and make sure that you visit our Facebook page at Black Science Month. You can search it there and meet the rest of the team and be introduced to a lot of scientific STEM and even arts. We blend it all during Black Science Month. And if you have not gotten your copy today, make sure you get my new text, Race and Identity in Ancient Egypt, Volume 1, Towards a Meaning for the Place Name Kemet. And as you know, my research on the name Kemet has yielded that essentially the word has to deal with farming, and it is rooted in its agricultural basis. And so out of that, we started an initiative called Chikam, which is a philosophy, paradigm, and praxis where we use agriculture as a basis and a model and mentor for not only developing our sense of sovereignty, but also the culture and philosophy itself in a similar way in which all African people have done. So we'll have more on that at a later time. But part of that initiative is to highlight African people who have, in a sense, returned to the earth and have gotten themselves involved with agriculture, permaculture, aquaponics, herb growing, and all different types of things. So biomimicry in the scientific sense. And with us today, we have a couple, a family that is involved in essentially all aspects of what I just said, and are doing big things and have large goals all the way in Tanzania, East Africa. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to the Mbongi, Sister Evelyn and Baoku Duduyemi. I'm sorry.
No problem, bro. Greetings, greetings.
Greetings, peace and blessings to you both.
You
First
as
and
well.
foremost, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed with us here on the Mbongi. And since this is your first time, hopefully not your last, on the Mbongi, can you introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what do y'all do?
All right, I am Baoku Duduyemi. This is my wife, Evelyn Duduyemi. We live in Arusha, Tanzania currently, by way of Atlanta, Georgia. That was the first stop where we met each other. We are the co-directors of Kibolebole Educational Institute. We're the co-founders of Aya Tanzania. We have a coaching services called Homemade Joy. And we do a little bit of everything. We're parents, a happy married couple.
We're teachers. We are growers, as you said in your introduction. And so we, like my husband said, we do a bit of everything. And sometimes folks ask, like, how you do all that? And really, because it's the same thing to us, right? We're really interested in fighting, healing, and building, right, for our people. And so we do that in as many different ways as we can.
And that fighting, healing, and building is the foundation for the sovereignty that you talked about earlier.
Indeed. And so let's talk a little bit about that. And so, if I'm not like a follower of people per se, but if I was, and you could put me in a category, I would consider myself a Wilsonite, a Dr. Amos Wilsonite. And, he stresses this notion of family and basis as a basis for economic development and growth. And I don't see enough, in my opinion, of these conversations about our interpersonal relationships and how everything else kind of stems from that. And so y'all have a coaching aspect to what y'all do, which I think includes the relationship aspect.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why is that so important in general and especially to you both?
Well, first I want to say that we share your love of Mama Amos, right?
Yes.
Our elders at Aya Educational Institute, the paradigm that they've trained us in, that's Baba Kessa and Mama Fia Madio, is takes a lot, learns a lot from Baba Amos as well, right? And so we're together on that. We're on the same page, and it is really important, right? That that what we have and what we can build and what we can even practice together helps us with our work. And that's one of the things we love to do, is to help people build their relationships, build authentic, emotionally authentic relationships with each other. That is a springboard for work in the community. And it also helps you practice the same skills that you're going to need to do the work in the community.
And these skills are necessary because of an aggression that has been put upon us by people who are alien to our culture and alien to our community. Baba Amos talks about it in terms of the falsification of African consciousness. The Monty Moyos have taught us, and we communicate to others, the importance of paying attention to the falsification of our emotions. And so these things, both of these things, impact the way we communicate with each other. They cause conflicts between us in a very specific way and hierarchical way. And so we through our work, counter that and teach other people to become skilled at working through it.
Indeed. And there's also an educational component to what y'all do in general. And so I want to know a little bit more about that aspect of what you do and the classes that y'all provide.
So we do that same work, right? That same kind of paradigm to create classes for African children, right? So that in the same way that your consciousness can be falsified, your emotions can be falsified, your relationship, especially for me, math and science is my thing, right? I love math and science. I'm super excited to hear you talk about Science Month. Your relationship to math and science, right, can be, oppression gets in there, right? So that you don't see math and science as ours. You don't understand, as you were talking about, I'm sure in In the book that you were talking about in the opening, I'm sure that you talk about our math and science from the beginning, right? And so we develop courses that highlight that for students, that connect us and our history to ancient math and science and modern day math and science, right? And see us in a river of scientists and mathematicians.
Right. From creation to its current state, it's all us. We focus on that and also focus on the problems of African people. So if we can create solutions inside the classroom using real life application, what we learn gets applied so that we can solve the problems of African people, and children get to learn that at any age.
And so there's a whole catalog. We don't teach every class every year, right? Obviously, we developed a whole catalog of all sorts of math classes, science classes, social studies classes, language classes. You talked about, we're here in Tanzania, and so we're learning about all of the different national groups, right? I tend to say that, and where others might say tribes, right? All the different national groups and their languages, and how they're interconnected and how they developed. And so language classes are coming as well. So all sorts of stuff, tessellations and traditions, and this land is our land, right? Is a course we have now that about the resistance, right? Our resistance stories here in East Africa. So all kinds of different, as we learn, then we teach, right? And as we see what is important for our children to know, then we put together curriculum specifically designed for them.
Right. One of those problems being, how are we going to feed ourselves? How are we going to clothe ourselves and shelter ourselves so that we can be prepared for the battles that we're currently in and the ones still to come?
I want to take a step back because we kind of glossed over something that was mentioned. And so y'all met in Atlanta, Georgia. But y'all are in Tanzania.
That's right.
Yes.
So what was that transition? What was the motivation to say, you know what, babe, let's pack up and go to East Africa? What was that conversation? What was those series of events that said, you know what, this is where we need to be?
It's a great question. And we talk about developing courses. We have a whole course that's like specifically about that, right? So yeah, we met in Atlanta in 1996. And we got married in 2000. And then, we're living life in Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? Have 2 kids, building the school, becoming facilitators, all that, stuff. And then on Inauguration Day, right? The last, inauguration of the last president of the United States. We looked and said, I don't know, right? The response to COVID, right? The things that were happening around the world. The UK closing its borders, the discussion of green passports, all of that sort of stuff. I'm not sure. Maybe we should, I don't know. And so we looked around the world, right? Where is a place that's more in alignment with what we think the response might be, right? How do we want to live? And Tanzania was that place. And so 5 weeks later from the decision, like I said, it was Inauguration Day. We talked about it. Hold on, wait. Let's sleep on that for a quick second, right? Right. The next day we're like, yep. And 5 weeks later we were here. Really just making the decision and getting a lot of support from our community in Atlanta, right? Putting out the call, here we're leaving, can you help us out? Who wants to buy our car? Who wants to, just a lot of support, and we're here.
See, given the work that we do, it's very significant to us. Choosing a place to live that gives us the most capacity. So such that we can continue the work that we do for ourselves, our family, and our folks. And so we thought that might be compromised. We had to make some quick decisions and decide on a place that we thought might be more of a stronghold for supporting the type of work that we do and that we hope other Africans will do and will support them in.
And so 2.5 years later, we are still here and really excited about the work that we're doing. We've got land here, we're building a house, have a school here, In the background, you see that we have an initiative going on right now to support the water infrastructure for the village that we've chosen to be our home base here in Arusha. And so we're really excited about the life that we are able to build here.
And it's all related. Water sources, self-reliance, locations that support the work that we do. That's about making space. This location that has many people who are also self-reliant. Food is a priority here. The growing of food, the distributing of food, the selling of food, it's all a significant part of people who want to be self-determined. The work that we do, Warrior Healer Builders, is work that is about becoming self-determined, given the scripts that other people are trying to have us run in their favor when we're in the United States and abroad. No matter where you're at, you have to counter that type of oppression that has us behaving in ways and thinking in ways and feeling in ways that aren't innate to ourselves. We have to do those things. And all that stuff is in support of us being self-governed. That's the work we have to do, to be able to maintain the fight to become self-governed.
I think this is, I'm just watching you two interact and just hearing the story, and I kind of jump back to the interpersonal relationships aspect of the conversation, and how having somebody on the same page and what you're able to build when, not saying that, all human beings and couples have these ebbs and flows and natural tensions and whatnot. But if there's a common set of core values, what y'all can build together, is virtually limitless. But outside of that, I want to ask, because this is something that, a lot of us, have considered moving to Africa. And it seems to be two popular places, when people want to move to Africa. It is Ghana and Tanzania. So I know a few folks who are in Tanzania as we speak, and one I know who's planning on moving there soon. And so what was, had y'all had any experience in Tanzania prior to coming? Or did y'all just pack up and say,
Not at all.
we'll
Zero.
make it work when we get there?
Zero experience. Had never been to Tanzania. We're living in northern Tanzania in a city called Arusha. Had never heard of Arusha, right?
Oh.
We knew Dar es Salaam, right? Had never heard of Arusha. Some of our compatriots were in Arusha, right? And we would have, a larger community would have meetings, right? That sponsored by Educational Institute during the lockdown and that sort of thing, as far as strategies and taking care of ourselves and building our immune system, that sort of thing. And I used to see them, right, in the little box with the sun shining, right? And so when we were ready, I called. I said, "Sis, I think we're ready." She said, "Come on." And so the support from them as well helped us to come, right?
Indeed. So how has your interactions been with the locals? How has your presence been received?
Our presence has been received well in a number of ways. There are people who are happy to meet us because we come from America. And we engage those people in a way such that we can get the best out of those conversations that we can. Some people are happy to see us because of the impression that we have, because of the clothes that we wear, because of our chosen hairstyles, because of the way we act, which they believe is African. Some people don't have that same interaction, and through communication with us, we're able to change how they feel about Africans from America. So we've had a very good experience here in terms of interaction with individuals, and part of it is because we understand oppression and the impact of people on the outside, but we also have a tool set that helps us monitor ourselves as we communicate with other people, so we can put our best foot forward in terms of communicating and developing trust. And that's what's most important. When you come to a new place, like we came to Tanzania, your relationships with someone are based on building trust. If you're going to someone else's family reunion and they don't know you, well, it's going to be a while before they warm up to you. And that warm up process comes through interaction, communication. You know, if it's okay if they know someone who knows you, that gives you a foot in the door, and you still have to give a good impression. So don't expect to come to a place and just be hugged on and snuggled up next to, just because you also have the same complexion and hair texture as they do. There's work to be done in terms of developing relationships and building trust.
Indeed. And it's funny that the location in which you're at, I remember some years ago, and I forgot the individual's name because of what I do in terms of research, lecturing, and the like. I have communications with people around the world, and it was a brother actually out of Tanzania. And he and I would chat, all the time. And, he was just telling me casually one day, because he knows that I'm into the study of ancient Egypt and the hieroglyphs, the Meta Nature, the Sesh Meta Nature. And he was like, yeah, there's a group of women, elders who still write hieroglyphs in Arusha, on the sand as part of their sand writing or whatnot. So I've always made it a point to try to get there to try to meet these elders. But that's just a side note.
That's a fantastic side note. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. I'm looking for him now.
So I'm like, hey, if you could get in, let us know what's going down with this writing. But I remember watching one of your videos, and you were speaking on, I guess, a walkway or bridge that you had built on the property that you have, and the importance of the stream and things of that nature. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what was going on, and why was what you did and how you did it important, not only for the community itself, but building on that aspect of the conversation of your interactions and building relationships with the locals, how that was important to that process?
We were on a property that we currently purchased. I want to be clear. People from other places outside of Tanzania are not allowed to own land. So through your business or through your nonprofit, you can purchase land in a place like Tanzania. I think it's a wonderful way to use to protect the land for people in Tanzania, and I support it wholeheartedly. And we were lucky enough, well, the timing was right, and we were the right people to have met Mama Bahati, who owns some land in the place where Aya Tanzania currently rests. The land was being negotiated for purchase with someone from outside the country, from India. And when we asked her if we could purchase the land, she had questions, because Mama Bahati was local and she was from the village that we were attempting to purchase land in. And it was important for her to leave a legacy and an experience for the people in that village that she could trust. And so she asked us, if we allow you to purchase this land, will you leave the stream open to the villagers? She said, when people have purchased land in the past, they've quickly put up fences and gates and blocked off access to water for the people. Will you leave access to water for the people? We said, yes. She said, on my land, there's a burial plot. There lies a gentleman who at one time was the head of the village. we don't build on that land. That is his land. If we allow you to purchase this land, will you leave his plot of land untouched? We said, yes, we will. So those were two of the things that she asked us if we would do. The third thing, she said, well, what is your intentions in this village? We said we would like to build a school. And with those three things confirmed, she ended negotiations with those other folks and allowed us to purchase the land. So when you saw me standing on the bridge, that was a bridge that we had constructed so that people who have been walking to that very same spot at that very same stream could continue to come get water for cooking, could continue to get water for supporting their households with bathing and washing clothes, who could continue to come to get water for their businesses that they have that rely on water, like the washing of other people's clothes. And so that was me standing there saying, hey, Mama Bahati, we kept our promises. We are building the school. We have made a place where people can walk clearly to come get water at the stream. And we made it even easier. Instead of having the land slope, we created steps so that they could easily go gather the water and walk around the same trailways that they have walked through and in between the trees when they come across the land where we were at. And so that is what I was explaining to the folks, how we have kept our promise and we plan to continue to keep that promise. Because Mama Bahati is no longer with us. She passed away. And that, it makes us feel good to know that we have met all the requirements. She trusted us enough to become a part of that village, because we are a part of that village, participating in the community meetings and being a new school in that village to help teach the kids math and science through agriculture. So we're happy about it, and that's what I was explaining in that video.
Excellent. Respect. Which leads me now to the question of, okay, so, an election happened, y'all started questioning whether it's sane to stay here in the United States, and y'all decided to pack up and move 5 days later. And
5 weeks, 5 days,
well,
Yeah, 5 weeks.
yeah, 5 days. That would be 5 weeks,
Right.
5 weeks later, you're gone. Now, I know that y'all had, education in STEM prior to leaving, but had y'all had any experience in farming prior to leaving? And if not, what was that process? Or regardless, what was that process getting into that? What made y'all say, you know what, we need to learn how to have this relationship with the earth community, not only the human community?
We had a lot of experiences farming. And as my husband tells this story, one of the things I want to highlight is you talked about our interaction with each other, right? And our being on the same page, and that's true. And we spend a lot of time and energy like staying on the same page and then moving to another page together when one of us says, let's be on this page, right? And we also spend a lot of our time doing our best to learn from our elders, right? We are happiest when our elders are happy with us. And so as part of that learning from our elders, that's how we got into agriculture.
Absolutely. Well, I come from a long history of Africans who worked in the ground. My grandfather's family was in Virginia, and they owned farmland there for quite some time. My friends would come to my house and huddle around the front porch to get fresh tomatoes and cucumbers straight from the farm. I was born in Rochester, New York, so they bring the food from Virginia to Rochester. My mother's family was in Mount Bayou, Mississippi. They owned land, and when the older brothers and sisters decided to sell, my grandmother decided to still work the land, even if it meant sharecropping. And so she supported a family of 14 off that land. So my mother brought those skills with her into Rochester, New York, and gave me a little bit. Well, my main training was with Truly Living Well with Baba Rashid Nori and Eugene Alala. They in Atlanta gave me a foundation for growing. I'm a Truly Living Well certified urban grower. And with that, I was able to, when I was laid off, still be able to feed my family. That's back when I was working for folks. And we don't do that anymore. I said, but back then, when I couldn't get income in a way that I was used to and the way that I was trained to at some other people's schools, I still had a responsibility to feed myself and my family. And we did that with the training from Bob Rashid. We put food in the ground right out front in the west end of Atlanta. We put food in the back in the west of Atlanta. We taught other people to grow food in the west end of Atlanta. And when these situations occurred that you're referring to, we saw presidents changing. We saw people threatening to have green visas and not allow people to leave the country and force, vaccinations and things of that nature. We decided to put food in the ground because I felt scared that they would compromise our ability to get food even from the grocery store.
Right. You remember that? Remember when at the beginning of the response to COVID, when the grocery stores were empty, right?
Yeah.
And people would be online like, I found broccoli at this, the one on 3rd Street, right? When their food wasn't as plentiful.
Right.
Go ahead.
And we made this decision before the food wasn't plentiful. The places were fully stocked when we began to feel scared about what they would do, given what they were trying to accomplish. We didn't take it just as scare tactics when they talked about we're going to require you to wear masks or require you to do these certain things. So we had an itch before they even started emptying the grocery stores. That was one of my concerns. So to get reassurance for that scare and get protection against not having food or being locked out of the grocery stores, I and my daughter and my son put food in the ground. So when my wife was taking care of one of her scares, which was not having enough food on hand. See, my wife wanted to have the house packed with food. We had a similar scare. We had a different way of addressing that scare. So it's important that you identify these scares, because a scare is going to tell you it's not a bad thing to have a scare. When you see a scare, it just gives you a message. The message says there's a danger and that you need to address it with the reassurance, protection, and support. So she wanted us to protect ourselves by buying enough food, stockpiling, so that we could have food to eat if something drastic went down and we couldn't get to a grocery store. If someone began to steal the food that we grew, because we couldn't grow enough, And so as she went out to go get those groceries to put in the house, my wife, me, my daughter, and my son began to put in that garden.
And so we did that. So that's part of our, we spent a day increasing our emergency reserves. And then the next 2 days, I was going to find whatever seedlings I could find, right, to put a garden into the front yard. We hadn't had a garden in a couple of years.
Right.
We'd sort of we'd been involved in urban agriculture and then kind of, let that fizzle out. And then we said, oh, it's time to bring that back. And did it as a family, right? As we do most things.
Do y'all teach a course specifically on urban agriculture? Like how, the process from A to B on to set something up in your home, and even if you don't have a home, if you have an apartment or something like this, to get the process going. Is that part of the Institute's courses that you offer?
So one of the things we started, this group that we were involved in, started by Educational Institute. It's called Ngolo, right? And a sort of a branch of that is Ngolo Gardens, right? So you go on Facebook and you can join the Ngolo Gardens group, and then in there you'll find courses, right? You'll find courses. We're not, giving that information anymore. It's really it's local and also timing and, all that, seasons and all that sort of thing, right? Mama Thea is really spearheading that Ngolo Gardens effort now. And there's monthly meetings, there are courses, there's a cookbook that just came out. We had for a while RBG challenge, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, show your plate, your RBG plates, you know what I'm saying, right? We were really increasing the amount of vegetables and healthy things we were eating. And so there's people came with all kinds of great recipes they shared with everybody. And so that's a really great place to find those kinds of urban garden courses.
That's right. We created Ngolo Gardens as a way, again, of addressing some of the concerns we have for ourselves and our community, us being a part of that community. We want to grow food. On our lot, it's not possible to grow enough food to actually have enough for everyone. So something get really bad. So what's the next best thing to safeguard your own food? To teach others to grow food. So if you go to Angola Gardens, you'll see videos of my wife filming and me explaining what the food is and how to grow it, whether it's outdoors or indoors. You'll see those things. We've also taught courses. We taught that Liberated Minds, the children understanding what it's like to grow in the ground and to grow inside your house. We taught them what the food was, how to grow it, how to feed the soil, how to feed the plants. And we do this periodically. It's not a course that we just have ongoing, but whenever we feel the need to offer these courses, we put them out. We have something called Plants Count. Plants Count is way bigger than just telling people how to put food in the ground and grow it. And it does start with putting with nutritional and medicinal plants in the ground as a way of learning how to take care of your health, as a way of learning math, as a way of learning science. So we do teach the children how to grow. Here in Tanzania, we taught children during our first session here at Tanzania. I believe we taught, 20 children about putting food in the ground, because in Tanzania, you would think everyone knows how to put food in the ground because so many people do. And recently they have taken agriculture out of the school system. So some don't. And so when they came to us and became a part of our Plants Count program, we taught them how to put food in the ground, how to grow food. And many of those children, maybe 4 of those children, they took what they learned from us and they took it straight to their family households and put food in the ground for their parents and for their relatives who weren't putting food in the ground, so they could help sustain not only themselves, but their families. Because it wasn't good enough for them to be able to just feed themselves. They had to make sure their families could feed themselves as well.
And so it maintains the wonderful self-reliance that Tanzania has, right? Tanzania supplies 97% of its food. That's one of the things that attracted us to this country, right? Because if I'm feeding myself, right, if I've got food and I've got water, right, then I can say yes and I can say no, right? Because I can take care of myself. And so helping to maintain this history of self-reliance here in Tanzania is really important to us. And it's also a really fantastic way to teach math and science, right? To teach math and science through the doorway of agricultural science, right? At all ages, right? Is really, really effective and has been working really well for us. And we also really enjoy it.
Appreciate it. And we're coming to a close in our interview. And I just want to ask you one last question. And it is, based upon your experience with farming and agriculture, what are some personal life lessons that praxis has taught you? Like, what philosophical concepts have you learned from nature that you apply in your personal lives?
Wow, there's so many. What's coming up first for me is this idea of when you plant something, you expect to harvest, right? You're building an expectation for the future, right? When I put a seed in the ground, I don't put it in the ground just because I don't think it's going to do nothing, right? I put it in the ground with the intention, with the expectation and the intention that I will harvest, right? And I do everything that I can do to bring that expectation into reality, right? You talked about your interest in Kemet, and one of my favorite things that our ancestors talked about from Kemet is this idea of 63/64ths, right? And that last 1/64th being the part that we don't do, right? The part that God does, the part that Spirit does, after we do the 63/64ths, that is our work. So that you put a seed in the ground, you take care of it, you nurture the plant, you do everything that you know how to do to get the outcome that you want, including asking if there's something else that I need to do to get the outcome that I want. And then you fully expect for that 1/64th to be filled in by the Creator and to get what you're after.
But my wife has just brought out the eye of Heru. I think that's a closing. I said, I got something to say, but I think that's, that's about to say, well, if I had to say something, it'd be the thought of companionship, right? It's something that, it's something that I've benefited from. Not just companionship, but complementarity. But in the garden, you plant certain plants that help other plants grow stronger and more vigorously than they might have. It protects other plants in ways that they are currently able to protect themselves. And that same companionship plays out in a couple. When you're in a marriage relationship, especially, you get that type of support and that type of protection in real life, for situations that you might not be able to handle because you don't currently have the skill set that your partner has. You're in a better place because you have brought somebody along with you that can handle it in that way or support you in handling it different than you do.
It's interesting you say that, because as I mentioned before, we have this initiative, and the reason why I asked that is because there's so much you can learn from farming and agriculture, and you had mentioned the idea of relationships. So I'm just going to share this one slide, and this is from the teachings of Hotep. And he says, if you are worthy, and he's speaking to a young man, if you are worthy and establish your house, love your wife passionately and rightfully, give her food and clothe her. Oil is the prescription for her body. Make her happy as long as you live, for she is a valuable field for her Lord. Do not judge her, deliver her from violence, suppress it. For her eye is a storm wind when she sees it. Soothe her heart with what you have gained. Thus will you cause her to remain in your house. And the agricultural part is, referring to her not in a demeaning way, but as a field. And so kind of combining both of what you both said in terms of the intentionality of the farming experience, and then the nature of the relationships, the interpersonal relationships, and how investing in each other can bring about that other outcome. And he mentions not only in terms of the young man dealing with his wife, he also says, don't be mean to your friends. They are one's watered field and more important than one's wealth. Again, speaking to relationships. And this is just what I mean by how, nature and agriculture provides a model, for living. Mm-hmm. And you guys really reinforce that notion. And I see it in the work that you're doing. And I'll even ask, what do you have, as my real last question, what are some plans for the future, for you two? What do y'all seek to accomplish? What do y'all have going on, other than what we've mentioned today?
The priority is Tanzania, strengthening our connections with people, not only in the Americas, but in other places, with us and the folks in Tanzania, and protecting the stream that is currently the lifeline for the village that we are located in, and making sure that it's available not only to us and our crops, but to everyone else's. And that is the main focus, and it's always underpinned by the other work that we do, which is the Warrior Healer Builder Peace. We're here because we're supposed to not only help ourselves and become skilled at helping ourselves, so we can help other people become skilled at helping themselves and their relationships and their organizations. And that's the foundation of all the work that we do, teaching African people to communicate better, to resolve conflicts, to build trust with each other through these authentic emotion behaviors that we talked about earlier. Become more connected with each other. That's the foundation of our work. That Warrior Healer Builder work is our part of getting that group freedom that we need, so we can have the personal freedom that we want.
Indeed. And do you have a last word for us, Sister Evelyn?
What's my last word? Well, first I want to thank you for inviting us. I mean, that I think is really, for reaching out. It's been fantastic to meet you. I've learned things on this, from you today, and I always appreciate learning something new. I've got new people to find here in Arusha. I'm going to find those women. I'm going to learn from them and tell you about it. And I believe it too. The Maasai know that they are from Kemet. You know what I'm saying? Like they have that in their oral history. And so I'm like, oh no, we can find them. And I think my last word is, like my husband was saying, our current priority is about the Ujima Conservation Society, right? That we founded to protect that stream that Baoku was standing in front of, right? And so, we've got the link to Kibolebole there on the screen. We've got some stuff there about the Ujima Conservation Society, and we'd love for folks to support that effort. That's our the right now effort to support that. And then in the future, there'll be other things that folks can get involved in terms of supporting the school, in terms of the ongoing sister circles that we have, the relationship coaching that we do, just like we're talking to you now from the other side of the world. We continue to do our coaching to folks in the West in the same sort of thing. And so, just, link up with us, right? See what about what we're doing can enhance what you're doing, right?
Yes.
What about what we're doing interests you? What about what we're doing do you want to learn more about? And we always love to, to meet African people that we haven't met before.
Indeed. It has been a joy hearing you both, and of course having you on the Mbongi. And I hope this is not the last time, and we can, kind of hone in on something more specific, so that y'all can go in depth with one or more of the projects in which you're doing. But I love what y'all doing, and I, just had to do my part in letting people who I know about you all and what y'all are doing, so that they can be involved in whatever way that they can. And so as you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's the link to kibolebole.com. And where can, outside of this particular website, can you, if they want to know more, if they want to link to you on like social media, if that's their thing, where can they find you all?
So most of the stuff is on Homemade Joy on Facebook, right? That's where we've got, that's I think where you saw that video that you were talking about earlier. Yes. We've got a lot of things. We keep people updated for the most part on Facebook. I know we're old school, right? Facebook. Homemade Joy. And there is an Instagram, Homemade Joy, as well, where some stuff goes. And if you really want to, be the first to know what we're doing, Facebook is the place to find us.
That's it. Homemade Joy.
This is the Facebook page, and you can see. So Homemade Joy. So look for this on Facebook, and they also said on Instagram, correct? All righty.
Yes, thank you, brother.
And you're welcome. So again, thank you both for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. And if you're watching this video, make sure that you like the video and that you share the video with all your friends and colleagues. And of course, visit the website and support this movement going on right now in Tanzania and around the world, essentially. And so thank you both, and enjoy the rest of your night. I know it's late. We're 7 hours distance. So my day is just getting started, and yours is winding down. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's dinner time too, and so so hopefully your stomachs aren't growling too hard to do this interview. But I appreciate it
Thank
greatly.
you, brother. We appreciate it.
No,
Let's stay in touch.
Indeed, we'll do. All right, y'all be easy. Peace and blessings.
All right.
Have a fantastic day.
Kush TV presents Sankofa, The Future of Black History, a unique Black History Month online series exploring all dimensions of time as we chronicle the Black past, command the Black present, and empower the Black future. Workshops include The Future is Black. Why is Black history under attack? With Shakara. We create value, the ingenuity of enslaved Africans, with Robin Walker. Ancestral coding, agriculture, and the Opobo Library Initiative with Aya Evelyn. Quantum field theory as African heritage with asarimhotep. For full information including dates and registration, visit gotkushtv.com. We have made history. We are making history. There is history still to be made. Sankofa, The Future of Black History. A Black History Month series not to be missed.